A blessed good morning, honorable members, and those under the sound of my voice. Today, in our Moments of Impact devotional segment, I'll be sharing a devotional entitled, Life is But a Vapor. One of the most invaluable lessons I've learned about life over the years is that life has no guarantees. What you see today, there is no guarantee you will see tomorrow. The people you are connected to today is no guarantee you'll be connected to them tomorrow. No matter how much we plan or strategize, there is no guarantee it will happen. James chapter 4, verse 13 to 15 reads, "Go to now, ye that say today or tomorrow, we will go into such a city and continue there a year, and buy and sell and get gain. Whereas you know not what tomorrow shall bring forth. For what is your life? It is even but a vapor, that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth away. For that you ought to say, if the Lord will, we shall live and do this or do that." In this passage of scripture, James instructs his audience to not become boastful about life. He says, don't get caught up on making plans because you don't know what your life will be like tomorrow. James further states that life is but a vapor. It's here for a little while, and then it's gone. He encourages his audience to always say when they make their plans, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or do that. Because life is but a vapor, we must not take our life for granted. Every waking moment, we must maximize our time here on earth. I want to leave you today with 3 recommendations to maximize your time here on earth. Number 1, live. Live at peace with each other. Treat others with respect and kindness. Do your best to leave a lasting impression on everyone you come into contact with. Don't carry anyone to your grave. They are not worth it. Honorable members, I know during the debate things can get a bit heated. My admonishment today is F&Ms, live at peace with the PLPs. And PLPs, live at peace with the F&Ms. Number 2, my second recommendation, not only is to live, but also to love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. Don't love anything or anyone more than God. I want to admonish each of you under the sound of my voice to commit to developing a relationship with the Almighty God. It is through your relationship with Him you will develop a love for Him. And last but not least, after you live, after you love, make time to laugh. Engage in activities that will relieve stress and give you an opportunity to laugh. Take time to enjoy life. Travel. Treat yourself to a nice meal. Go and engage in retail therapy, aka shopping. Go for a drive. Go on the beach and enjoy our pristine waters. Go and watch a movie. I leave you with this final thought today. Life is fleeting. Embrace the moment. Live, love, laugh, because no man is promised tomorrow. Selah. Think and act on these things. Before we pray, I would like to extend pre-Happy Father's Day greetings to all of the amazing fathers in this honorable house and in our nation. I want to encourage you to attend the church of your choice this coming Sunday, which is Father's Day. Remember, life is but a vapor, so make the most out of your time here on earth. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life, health, and strength. We thank you for your word that you gave us today, for indeed your word is life and hope. Indeed, the grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of our Lord abides forever. Your word is indeed a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. Father, help us to make the most out of our time here on this earth and not to take life for granted. We ask today that you will cause us to always be mindful that life is but a vapor and has no guarantees. I pray today, Almighty God, that those who don't know you in the pardon of their sins will get to know you before it is a day too late. Father, you admonished us in your word to pray for kings and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. So today, Father, I lift up our honorable members. I pray, Lord, for their strength, their stamina, and their courage. And oh God, we ask you today to crown each of them with your wisdom. You said in your word, if anyone lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to men liberally and upbraideth not. And it shall be given to us if we ask in faith. And so we ask you in faith for your wisdom upon these honorable members today. And Father, bless this house and fill this room with your presence and with your peace. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Let us pray the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
That's good there. Honorable members, when the House suspended its sitting last evening, we were debating a compendium of bills dealing with the 2023-2024 budget. The Honorable Member for Angliston has indicated her intentions to speak at this time. Honorable members, I presume you are ready to begin. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Angliston.
Bishop heard, yeah, Bishop say. Good morning, Mr. Deputy. I rise with a heart full of gratitude and in a spirit of humility to proffer this, my 22nd contribution to the national budget debate in this honorable House. My gratitude is accorded first to an almighty God who sees and knows all things, and a God that has been full of grace and mercy for all the days of my life. My gratitude also lies with the people of Angliston, who in every electoral battle over the last 22 years have seen fit to send me back to this honorable House. They have entrusted me to stand on their behalf, to represent them at the table in governmental affairs and on the other side of the floor in opposition politics. Finally, I would wish to express my gratitude to my family, my children in particular, who are now all adults, but who were young children when I started this journey, and who have withstood and weathered the rigors of politics in this country over these many years. Not always an easy thing, Mr. Deputy. And to my late parents, a father who was my hero as an uncompromising political warrior, who insisted that our people were great and were able to build this country with our own hands, who understood the meaning of service and reminded his political colleagues that their collective work was not done until every tear was wiped from every eye. And my mother, who was my best friend, who was kind and compassionate, but fierce in her advocacy for equity and justice for all. I am grateful to all from the bottom of my heart, because it is through God's grace and because of the resiliency and support of my familial circle and the fine example of my late parents and the loyal and unstinting support of the people of Angliston that I have prevailed these many years and been able to give continuous public service. It is because of these forces and influences that I have been sustained in this political journey which has become my life. I have sought throughout these years to be faithful, and despite all of the imperfections associated with my service, and there are many, I pray that I will never let them down. I must also thank the member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador for permitting me to contribute at the national level in the critical portfolio that he has assigned to me, and at this juncture in our nation's history. I pray daily for God's guidance in this sacred endeavor. I am also very fortunate to work with an incredible technical team at the Ministry of Education, led by the Permanent Secretary and the Acting Director, and further supported by a very dedicated team of officers. Mr. Deputy, it is no exaggeration. They are hardworking and committed and passionate about this work. And it is an honor to work with them shoulder to shoulder in this important undertaking. In that ministry, we have committed to probing with honest eyes the current state of our educational system and to fearlessly attack all vulnerabilities and deficiencies on all fronts. And we understand in this, there can be no compromise. We are prepared to do so, Mr. Deputy, because it is understood that education at the individual level is a process of self-development and self-realization, and that the absence of this engendering process lends itself to a life of misery and exposure to risk factors which negatively impact quality of life. But education is also critical to the quality of our national development, to how well we are able to produce strong and productive people, which allows for the building of capacity in all areas, and which inures to a thriving future and positions our nation as globally competitive. This is an important premise. We therefore, Mr. Deputy, require all manner of skilled and trained persons to move the country forward, to turn the engines of our economy, and to lead and inspire new generations of young people. This encompasses the full range of trades and professions, from lawyers to doctors, accountants, engineers, to plumbers, air conditioning specialists, to road pavers, to musicians and artists, to farmers and skilled laborers, to pastors and artisans, and on and on and on. Our educational system cannot pretend that we are living in a one-dimensional reality, and the delivery of instruction cannot seek to produce such young people, because we will fail. Our young people are diverse, differently able, talented in their own right, uniquely passionate. The educational experience should produce young people who are literate, numerate, self-confident, grounded. They should be critical thinkers, creative, innovative, and able to think out of the box. But our young people do not exist in a box. They are not shaped by a universal cookie cutter. There is no prototype. They are each unique, and the educational experience must be sufficiently crafted so that each child is able to reach his or her own potential. It's personal, and able to pursue their talents and passions, whatever they shall be. In the Ministry of Education, we have said, every child counts. Amen. This is the prevailing credo that must guide policy and action. This includes our children with special needs, who should each be able to reach their full potential as human beings and thrive in an educational system that is inclusive and appropriately resourced. But Mr. Deputy, this is all easier said than done. It requires skillful adaptations and progressive strategies, embracing the whole range of the educational experience to stimulate and develop the unique strengths of our children. Additionally, there are many external, competing, and cumulative social and economic dynamics impacting many of our young people. There is the competing force of social media and its negative impacts. There are the very difficult and challenging circumstances including severe poverty conditions. I've seen it firsthand, Mr. Deputy, that many of our children face daily before they come to that school, where access to the necessities of life, including food, is constricted. Many come from dysfunctional family circumstances. Many are subject to exploitation of all forms before they come back in that classroom, including that of the so-called gang leaders, I call them exploiters, who seek to recruit and prey on young people and use them as pawns. And then there has been the catastrophic consequences of COVID-19 on education, the social isolation caused by the lockdowns, the loss of learning on the brain, the psychological effects brought on by loss of normalcy caused by the school closures, the grief and uncertainty associated with the loss of loved ones. Add to all of this the fact that research is now showing that the brains of young people do not fully develop until way into their 20s, and this impacts emotional responses in many instances. This compound mix is poured onto the school campuses throughout the nation. On the front line in these extraordinary times are our teachers, who spend hours in almost every day of the week in their respective classrooms, face to face with our nation's young people. Madam Speaker, our teachers are incredibly committed. They give freely of themselves and their resources. They are motivated by love. I have seen it firsthand. And they are amongst the most important movers and shakers in our national life. We recently conducted a teacher morale survey nationally of public school teachers to learn of their concerns and to understand how to improve the terms and conditions of their work. And I just want to refer to just quickly. Our teachers, having been surveyed, these are the type of observations that they made. They reported not feeling respected. They decried a lack of adequate resources. And they cited the need for policy reform in areas such as performance assessment documents, opportunities for advancement, improved domicile incentives for family islands, the need for class size reductions and teacher mentorship. They were concerned about human resource challenge. They asked for mental health support, the addressing of obsolete curricula, and the committee that was formed to conduct this survey made a recommendation. And the recommendation, and I call it the most profound recommendation emanating from that report, is the financial stability of teachers, is the commitment to bringing teachers' salaries in line with the top professionals, such as engineers, physicians, and attorneys. And it was a view of the committee that this is a very concrete and necessary step in the right direction. We have to understand, Mr. Deputy, the role of our teachers in building a nation, in shaping young people for the future of our country. And we must deal with our teachers in a way in which that shows that there is a correlation between what they do and how they are respected, honored, and remunerated. I also looked at a UNESCO study or report which was sent out on World Teachers' Day, and they sounded the alarm on the global teacher shortage crisis. And the things they refer to are similar to the issues that our own teachers have said. And they say there is an urgent need to better recognize this profession on which the future of our children depends. And they speak about things like working conditions to be improved, better salaries to be offered. These are the very issues that our own teachers are feeling. And in other jurisdictions, it is leading to severe attrition and shortages. And we have to find strategies to retain our teachers. I know we've put in place a retention bonus, but we need to accord the financial and all manner of respect for our teachers, considering the work that they do. So we must agree to accord terms and conditions for our teachers which are commensurate with the important role and function in our national life. And I want to throw a challenge to the nation, Deputy Speaker. I invite the nation at the next Teachers Appreciation Day to express gratitude to the teachers of this nation. If you have a school in your community, show your gratitude for the teachers of that school and throughout this nation. The work they do directly impacts the prospects of the students who populate their classrooms, but also directly benefits the entire country and our short, medium, and long-term prospects as a people. The role of the educator has to be fully understood in this country. Despite the many challenges, our administrators and teachers and our professional support staff, our school psychologists and guidance counselors, they have shown incredible resiliency, tremendous sacrifice, and shining ingenuity. We as a nation owe them a debt of gratitude, particularly over these very challenging years in education. But in the midst of all of these dramatic shifts that our young people are experiencing, global economies are changing, and there's a greater emphasis on digitalization, ICT, and the growing importance of technical and vocational training. It is therefore incumbent upon us as policymakers to prepare our young people for the new economy, to equip them with the necessary skills and the ethical grounding in a world that can be confusing. Included amongst these new issues is the looming threat of climate change. A lot of people are still cynical about that, but we're seeing it every day around us. It's very real in this particular nation. The emergence of artificial intelligence and all other emerging trends, all in the backdrop of the severe and debilitating impact of COVID-19 on education. It is therefore more important than ever that steps are taken to remediate the impacts of the severe disruptions on our young people and to ensure that our children are fully prepared for the realities of the world as best as possible. We do not simply want the young people of our nation to survive. We want them to thrive and prosper, to live happy and productive lives with dignity and hope. In the Ministry of Education, we have embarked simultaneously to address through policy the multitude of issues that are today faced in our national and global reality, so as to assure that our young people are equipped to overcome all odds and leave the school environment strong, confident, capable, and qualified. Madam Speaker, I have sought to describe the setting in, in which education is placed in a post-COVID and 21st century reality, and the dilemma in which many of our young people already find themselves. It has required the ministry to respond in a progressive, comprehensive, multifaceted, and integrated fashion, and to do so aggressively and with urgency. I will now seek to give full insight into the strategies deployed since taking office in September 2021 in seeking to meet these core objectives. And these strategies are, and I will speak generally, one is the stabilization of the school campus, stabilizing the school campus after coming out of lockdowns. That involved addressing physical conditions, ensuring safety on the campus, providing skilled leadership on school campuses, making the necessary curriculum adjustments, and engaging in research and data accumulation to ensure that our decisions are based upon empirical evidence, and that at the end of the day, our young people are able to experience an educational program which embraces their gifts and talents and allows them to enter the world equipped for tertiary education or meaningful employment. In pursuance of these objectives, a singular focus has been brought to bear on the necessary actions to achieve these objectives. We first sought, before school opened, to address the physical conditions of the school plant nationwide before campuses were reopened after 2 years of closure. Research shows a strong correlation between physical conditions at schools and teacher morale and student performance. We must therefore accept that it is necessary to commit ourselves to the appropriate financial investment to enhance and improve the physical state of our 160 schools as an indispensable component for ensuring student performance and maintaining morale of administrators and teachers. Extensive physical repairs had been undertaken since September 2021 during the 2022 and the 2023 fiscal period, amounting to in excess of $40 million. These works have impacted every school throughout our archipelago, with significant investment in particular at Government High School, T.A. Thompson Junior High School, C.H. Reeves Junior High School, Uriah McPhee Primary School, Palmdale Primary, D.W. Davis Junior High, Sybil Strawn Primary School, San Salvador High, and works are now underway at the Acklands Central High School in Pompey Bay, Acklands. I am pleased to announce that this school, the Acklands Central High School, will in short order be named the Loftus A. Roker High School. As many may know, the Honorable Loftus Roker is a distinguished son of Acklands Island and a former student at that school and a great contributor to our national progress. He was one of the original signatories at the Independence Conference in London in December 1972 and has dedicated his life to the cause of the Bahamian people. Other schools will be renamed in the ensuing months in an effort to raise up the patriarchs and matriarchs who have given much to this country and helped to pave the way for succeeding generations. Madam Speaker, many of our schools have been in almost dilapidated condition, and in some cases, painfully so. The physical state of some of the facilities has deteriorated to the point where it has become a hazard for students and teachers in some instances. In many cases, there are spalling concrete and corroded wrought iron railings. Many of our buildings are in excess of 50 years old. In this fiscal year, this aggressive approach to addressing the physical plant will continue as we pledge to address as best we are able within the competing budgetary constraints, the physical state of our schools, an ongoing and costly but very necessary undertaking. During the fiscal year period 2023 to 2024, the Ministry of Education will embark upon an accelerated construction, expansion, and repair program throughout the country. This aggressive effort will be carried out to improve and enhance the deteriorated conditions of the 160-plus educational facilities. Capital expenditures required during the upcoming fiscal year to facilitate the corrective measures at the various facilities, construct extensions, and commence the construction of 3 needed schools are in excess of $37 million. During the 2023-24 fiscal year, the Ministry of Education, Technical and Vocational Training will undertake the construction of several classroom blocks at various schools. This effort is to alleviate overcrowding and replacement of structures that have deteriorated structurally. Notably among those classroom blocks are the construction of a classroom block at Cooperstown at a cost of $3.7 million, construction of a classroom block at Arthurstown at a cost of $3.9 million, construction of a classroom block at Patrick J. Bethel High School at a cost of $4.9 million, construction of a classroom block at Emma Cooper Primary School at a cost of $600,000, and construction of the administrative block at Foxtown Primary at a cost of $600,000. Other notable projects to be undertaken during the period are construction of a covered pavilion for lunch at R.M. Bailey High School at a cost of $2.6 million, renovations and expansion of the Ministry of Education Supplies and Materials Warehouse at a cost of $4.5 million, Phase 2 redevelopment of the Government High School at a cost of $3.4 million. And additionally, in the upcoming fiscal year, we will see the commencement of the construction of the following long overdue schools: Georgetown Primary, estimated at $10 million, San Salvador High School, estimated at a cost of $10 million. And the following projects are expected to be completed and ready for occupancy at the start of the academic year. And some of these projects have been really long-standing. The construction of the Stanley Key All-Age School, which is right there to completion. The construction of the Holmes Rock High School, Grand Bahama, right there for completion. The construction of the Low Sound Primary School, North Andros. The construction of the Ragged Island Comprehensive School. We expect to undertake these works during the summer break and as soon as school closes at the end of this week. And so, Mr. Deputy, repair and rejuvenation of the physical environment is a matter of priority because it is connected to student performance and teacher morale, and was prioritized before schools reopened in January 2022 after 2 years of closure. But once those major works were completed, our children resumed face-to-face classes in January of 2022. And this was an important first step for the normalization of our school-age children post-pandemic and after experiencing severe disruptions. It is important to note that in communities impacted by Hurricane Dorian, the disruptions were in excess of 3 years, not 2, so as to understand the full impact on young students in those islands. Once our children were back to face-to-face instruction, we quickly discovered that during the period of virtual instruction, thousands of children at different grade levels and throughout the country had dropped off the radar. Many for the entirety of the 2-year period of closures. At the start of the 2021-2022 school year, it was determined that across the Bahamas, there were approximately 4,512 students of the 41,813 students enrolled in the public education system fully missing. This represented some 11% of the public school student population. Even more concerning, and adding to this number, were close to 8,000 students who were completely disengaged from instruction for more than 75% of the school year. So in other words, they showed up for 25% of the school year. The survey disclosed a myriad of reasons, but strongly suggested, we commissioned the Department of Statistics to help us ascertain the reason why these children were missing. We'd heard, people had opinions on it, but we wanted to learn scientifically what the issues were. And the Department of Statistics conducted a survey. The survey disclosed a myriad of reasons, but strongly suggested a major contributor was issues associated with the ministry's learning management system, the platform upon which the classroom instruction was being delivered to students nationwide. These findings led to a two-pronged approach and response. The first was of an extremely urgent nature, and it was to find the children that were missing from the educational system. Where were they and what were they doing? And secondly, urgent reform of the learning management system, which I will later discuss. The first urgent prong of finding the missing children is dubbed Find Every Child. This initiative is a school-based, community-based, and a communication-centered approach. The strategies for the Find Every Child initiative included the formation of a national task force in January of 2021. The National Task Force was comprised of representatives of several government agencies, including the Department of Social Services, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Office of the Attorney General, as well as civic groups, including the church. This group, partnering with the Technical Office of the Department of Education, was mandated to determine who was missing, address challenges that kept students away from school, and bring them back to learning in the shortest possible time. The ministry has taken this task literally. That is, we seek out every school-age child who is registered in the system to bring them back under the umbrella of the school setting. But as the work began, we soon learned that many children were invisible to our database. And in the last 18 months, children have been located who have never presented to a school in their lives. And they have now been brought into the school system. The Find Every Child initiative was launched on the 11th of January 2022 from the Uriah McPhee Primary School on Kemp Road. This walkabout included administrators, teachers, the police, union officials, NGOs. It was most alarming, Mr. Deputy, that during that walkabout alone, some 60 school-aged children were encountered who were not in school. At that time, Uriah McPhee Primary School had the highest rate of absenteeism of any school in the country. But today, with the considered efforts that have been deployed, this school is showing an almost 95% cumulative attendance rate, amongst the highest in the entire country. But this was not achieved by happenstance. It required focused and considered effort, not just with this school, but with schools nationwide. You may have seen recently the Prime Minister's visit to S.C. McPherson Junior High. This was a considered visit to recognize and celebrate the tremendous success that that school has made in meeting high attendance levels. The leadership of these schools and all of the schools are to be commended because they have engaged in a determined effort to get our children back in school by reaching out to parents and community stakeholders, going beyond the call of duty. This intense focus on school attendance is purposeful because the evidence and the research shows that attendance is strongly linked to student success. It shows that students who have irregular attendance at school are more likely to suffer learning gaps and other psychological effects. It is then no surprise that the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit joined with the ministry to support and enhance our efforts in increasing to at least 95% student attendance throughout the nation. The strategies developed were divided into 4 main categories: ministry-led, school-based, community-based, and community-centered. The Office of the Prime Minister, through the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit, not only supports this initiative, but partners with the ministry by providing technical support to the ministry's planning section, and they have developed an invaluable and comprehensive database in conjunction with the ministry using the quantitative data from the Bahamas Education Management Information System to monitor the situation on the ground and work with schools in bringing our students back to learning. Officers from the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit regularly meet with school attendance officers, school guidance counselors, school administrators, and planning officers as we work on not only increasing school attendance rates, but also ensuring persistent school attendance. Mr. Deputy, this is an unprecedented effort in the history of this nation to cause for our children to attend school. Madam Speaker, Mr. Deputy, the target attendance rate for the 2022-23 school year is 95%. And I've seen some April figures which are right there. And I don't think historically we've had 95% attendance in our schools. Students who miss more than 50% of the school year decreased by 94% nationwide. National attendance continued to increase and reached 91% between September and April. And the junior high school maintains the highest attendance among education levels, reaching 92.2% as of April 2023. Our review has shown that the country has seldom, if ever, in recent years seen this level of attendance, and the achievement is indeed remarkable, but it required all hands on deck. And I want to thank the Prime Minister and his unit for the work that they have done in partnering with the ministry in achieving this significant result of getting children off the streets and into our classrooms to develop their human potential. So, Deputy, we've also engaged close to 30 attendance officers to supplement our original team of attendance officers, and they are now posted in New Providence and Grand Bahama. Many of these officers have been operating from urban renewal centers located in the heart of communities where thousands of students live. These officers are on the ground, in communities, at the schools, and have relied upon information and intelligence within these communities to find children who are not attending school. Additionally, virtual town meetings have been held with the Prime Minister's office to raise awareness of the critical importance of children being in classroom during school hours and across the nation. I reiterate, Mrs. Deputy, attendance of school-aged children is critical. Mr. Deputy, while on campus, we wish to assure student safety. This is part of what I call the stabilization, physical conditions, assuring attendance, and now the issue of safety on the campus. In the reopening of school campuses in January 2022, when students returned to campuses by the thousands, many schools experienced levels of instability, including numerous physical skirmishes, some resulting in very serious injury. Research is showing that this type of violence has been seen globally and is linked in no small part to the psychological impact of student isolation during the shutdowns and lockdowns and the use of social media to perpetuate negative behaviors. We have also noted that many of our young people have fallen within the range of influence of organized groups, which has created tensions on campus. Other factors include issues in the home and social problems in communities. A decision had to be made to stabilize campuses. As a reluctant subscriber to police on school campuses, which was me, a decision was made to reintroduce school policing, but only after a review of the empirical research of schools in this country demonstrated that schools were safer with police on campus. I submit, however, that this is a policing with a difference. Firstly, it was firmly understood that officers would work alongside school administrators on our campuses. Secondly, a pilot program was launched in the spring term of 2022 and on 9 school campuses, and the success of that pilot project was empirically verified. The School Resource Officer Program was therefore officially launched in partnership with the Royal Bahamas Police Force in the fall of 2022. At present, there are a total of 32 SROs, School Resource Officers, including 16 in New Providence, 5 in Grand Bahama, 5 in Eleuthera, 3 in Abaco, 2 in Andros, and 1 in Exuma. Madam Speaker, I want to make it clear that SROs are not militarizing our schools, but they are serving as mentors, role models, and safety-related educators. The SROs are carefully selected by the Commissioner of Police and specially trained to ensure that they are suitable for the school environment. Last June, as I would have told the House before, I led a delegation to Denver, Colorado to attend the National Association of School Resource Officers, NASRO, their annual school safety conference, in order to be more exposed to global best practices on improved school safety. It was attended by thousands from all over the United States and all over the world. 2 of our police officers were certified on that occasion as internationally as SROs. In August, my ministry, along with the Department of Education, funded NASRO training for 30 officers. They came here. They trained 30 officers in this peculiar form of policing on school campuses. They were all certified as SROs in time for the 2022-2023 academic year. I'm also proud to announce that after hundreds of submissions from across the globe and much deliberation, the National Association of School Resource Officers has selected one of our very own SROs. In the person of Sergeant 1009 Rudy Pratt, to be awarded the International Exceptional Service Award. So, Deputy, this is the first time in the history of the Bahamas that a Bahamian will be receiving this award. And we wish to congratulate him on the work that he is doing with the young people and the teaching of music. He went there, and within 5 minutes almost, he had grown a band in that school. And the school is transforming. He's at the Preston Albury School in Eleuthera. Madam Speaker, as the academic year draws to an end later this month, preliminary figures indicate that since SROs began their work in September, there has been a significant decrease in the number of school incidents. We still have incidents. Many of them are happening on the streets when they leave the campus. But there has been empirically a significant decrease in the number of school incidents. And just to give you a little further, they give, sorry. It's dust. These SROs, they don't just patrol this campus. They go in the classroom with students. They deliver presentations on issues that impact young people. They talk about guns, gangs, drugs, bullying, and a host of other psychosocial issues. I saw a video after the GSSA sporting event. The SRO from CH Reeves won the championship. And those students surrounded him as he was, I guess you'd call it dancing, but they were celebrating him, and they won the championship. It spoke volumes about how this mentorship process is proceeding. Another component introduced, but I want to thank Chief Superintendent Charles Belhana, who leads this program, for his hands-on oversight and his work with the Second Chance program that you would have heard the Prime Minister speak to, where they pull out young people who've been suspended and work with them before they are reintroduced back into the school program. And I'm told that those young people are faring incredibly well. Another component introduced in the promotion of student safety is the busing initiative, which allows for the collection of students directly on the school campus. So they board on school campus. And this is to counteract what we were seeing at bus stops throughout New Providence on public streets, which led to frequent physical altercations with students from the same school or from neighboring schools, and for this reason and the next reason. So now our children who are taking the bus take it directly on the school campus. We still have children that walk home, and that continues to be a prevailing challenge. But we are working very hard to reverse these trends. Many of the students who are suspended from schools for unacceptable behaviors are sent to suspension centers. And we want to know what happens at these suspension centers. So Chief Superintendent Hanna was asked to review for quality assurance these centers to ensure that students receive the appropriate intervention and counseling during the suspension period, so as to get at the root of the problem, not just send them off and bring them back, but to use that as an opportunity to intervene and to find out what is it that's happening with this child. The more serious offenders are sent to program SURE, where we now have a guidance counselor where they test for literacy and they give literacy support, and they have an array of technical and vocational training that takes place. And the Royal Bahamas Defense Force has generously partnered with us to introduce components of drill and discipline from their Rangers program. Mr. Deputy, it was the frequency of student disruptions and other negative activity and violent behaviors in the first months of school return that led to a review of the body of research of this phenomenon in other countries and the links to COVID-19 lockdowns. We looked to see what was happening in other countries, and we saw similar trends in certain countries. And we saw that the research was showing that it was necessary for us to bring a closer focus to the psychosocial well-being of students. And a lot of people don't believe these things are real, but they are. It is clear that some students have been negatively impacted psychologically and emotionally for varying reasons, including the disruptions caused by the lockdowns, but not just that. It's an array, a menu of dysfunction. And this has been evidenced on many school campuses. A committee of public and private professionals was created who focused on this issue of well-being of the student population. They looked at strategies, including counseling sessions to cause for resiliency, self-awareness, self-management, suicide prevention, cyberbullying, and strategies to promote responsible decision-making. As a result of the recommendations made, the ministry is seeking to establish a school-based committee in each school, comprising guidance counselors, school psychologists, an administrator, a social worker, the school nurse, the PTA member, a parent, a member of the community, a civic organization, and/or church leader, and an urban renewal representative. And it is also intended to implement a Father Figure Friday. Each homeroom will appoint an upstanding gentleman from the community as a father figure for that homeroom. This individual will visit the homeroom at least once a month on a Friday. We will also implement safe drop boxes, which are placed strategically throughout the school campus. Students will use these boxes to voice their concerns, comments, or a note about how they're feeling. Mr. Deputy, I want you to trust me in this. This is very real. I cannot speak to some of the things we're seeing, but this is real. Or if they're aware of someone who needs intervention, by writing it on a slip of paper and placing it in a box. We seek to introduce a safe bench. PAHO and the World Health Organization country office seeks to partner with our ministry for the identification of a bench on its campus that may be designated as a safe space for students to share their support, empathy, and voices, and to open up about their mental health. PAHO and the World Health Organization will provide the paint and sign for the bench with taglines, share a conversation, your story, your support, and have a seat, let's talk about it. Mental health matters. And then we want to involve parents, seminars with parents, and the communications section of the Ministry of Education to send out PSAs. And the last week in March, each school will hold a mental health and wellness week, climaxing with a mental health and wellness day. And then they're going to do things like a TikTok competition, health and wellness poster, a health and wellness wall, etc. And I went to D.W. Davis I think it was last week, and I saw the first of the wellness walls placed in a school corridor where students posted positive messages on the wall. We want to bring into the open discussions about mental health and to provide support for students who are needing help. Madam Speaker, one of the challenges children and young people attending school face is access to food, and many come to school hungry. According to NoKidHungry.org, and I quote, longitudinal data suggests that children's learning outcomes suffer when they regularly experience hunger, and that nearly every aspect of physical and mental function is hurt as well. Food insecurity affects concentration, memory, mood, and motor skills, all of which a child needs to be successful, end quote. This highlights, Mr. Deputy, the critical importance of meeting the nutrition needs of children who come to school hungry. There is currently a lunch program which is managed by the National School Feeding Unit, which is comprised of the Lunch Vendors Program and the National School Lunch Program. The objective of the unit is to ensure the delivery of nutritious meals to school-aged children in the public school system, currently involving some 6,000 participants. But, Mr. Deputy, the Prime Minister announced last week that in addition to this lunch initiative, an allocation has been made in the 2023-24 budget for a national breakfast program. This is a significant initiative that will provide a first meal at the beginning of the day and begin to meet the hunger needs of children and bolster them as they seek to learn and develop their true potential. So, Madam Speaker, I've indicated what the areas of priority were, which included the physical state, getting our children back to school, dealing with the disruptions we were seeing once they got back, intervention for psychosocial needs, and then meeting food needs. This is all part of the stabilization of campuses so our children can begin to learn. The next issue of priority was to assess and address the learning loss that we anticipated was the result of the school shutdowns. According to a World Bank blog titled Mission Recovering Education in 2021, and I quote, "The COVID-19 pandemic has caused abrupt and profound changes around the world. This is the worst shock to education systems in decades, with the longest school closures combined with a looming recession. It will set back progress made on the global development goals, particularly those focused on education. The economic crises within countries and globally will likely lead to fiscal austerity, increases in poverty, and fewer resources available for investments in public service from both domestic expenditure and development aid." Well, I am pleased to say that in this country, we have avoided those stark measures. All of this will lead to a crisis in human development that continues long after disease transmission has ended. Disruptions to the educational systems over the past year have already driven substantial losses and inequalities in learning. School closures and the resulting disruptions to school participation and learning are projected to amount to losses valued at $10 trillion in terms of affected children's future earnings. Schools also play a critical role around the world in ensuring the delivery of essential health services and nutritious meals, protection, and psychosocial support. Thus, school closures have also imperiled children's overall well-being and development. It's not enough for schools to simply reopen their doors after COVID-19. Students will need tailored and sustained support to help them readjust and catch up after the pandemic. We must help schools prepare to provide the support and meet the enormous challenges of the months ahead. And then they say the mission objective is to enable all children to return to school and to a supportive learning environment which also addresses their health and psychosocial well-being and other needs. Mr. Deputy, we strongly suspected in early days, based on the global data and the findings of our own teachers, that many of our children have been adversely affected by this phenomenon of learning loss. Our teachers understood it better than most of us and immediately went into recovery mode in their own individual classroom testing and evaluating and utilizing their own remediation plans. It was the determination of the ministry, however, that a universal testing should be devised for the purpose of acquiring collective data holistically to measure the full impact of the shutdowns on our students and to assist in devising policy responses to remediate the fallout and recover learning loss and close the learning gap. The ministry enlisted the assistance of the Ministry of Finance in overseeing the process to identify suitably qualified consulting firm to undertake a diagnostic assessment of the learning loss which has occurred and to provide recommendations for accelerated learning recovery. An RFP was published and a committee formed to evaluate responses in conjunction with the Ministry of Finance. Cabinet approved the award of the Renaissance Learning Inc. Consultancy and authorized the expenditure of $1,021,620 payable over 1 year during the 2022, 2023, and 2023-2024 budget periods. And this $1 million was for the diagnostic assessment and accelerated learning recovery of the thousands of students who have been adversely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Just as a background, this company has operations in over 20 countries, including Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, in certain African countries, in Canada, in the United States of America, in the United Kingdom, and they have assessed tens of thousands of students across the Bahamas in recent days, from K through to 12, throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas in all of our 160 public schools. In round one of testing, 33,420 students were given the STAR reading test, and in round two, 29,960 students. 29,926 students sat the STAR math test round one, and 25,330 in round two. And the reason there were two rounds is there was testing, intervention, and then testing again to measure the success of the intervention. But we found there were many students who were not tested, and we are now seeking those out to determine why on those days in school they were not available to be tested. And we are working with the attendance unit to locate these children. The findings of this testing are the cause for significant concern and reveal that the greatest need for urgent intervention is in New Providence, Grand Bahama, Abaco, and Eleuthera. It showed that the testing is telling us that on average, 44% of our students need urgent intervention, according to the data reported. The final results of these national findings will be discussed with all relevant stakeholders in the ensuing weeks. Now, I want to say here that I am inclined to believe that this 44% of our student population is not necessarily all that we can put into what we call learning loss. And it is potentially systemic gaps. They call it social promotion. Systemic gaps that have prevailed and persisted over a very long period of time in our educational system. And so I suspect that this captures the entire bundle of learning loss that these students may be facing. In response to these findings, and let me just say also, Mr. Deputy, the good news is we've identified it, we've seen it scientifically, we know who the children are, we know what has to happen, and I think this is the first time we have been able to, with such specificity, identify the vulnerabilities in our educational system through a scientific, universal testing process. So there's good news in that, because it allows us now to know what it is we need to do to reverse the issues. In response to these findings, Renaissance is providing personalized, individual, small group, and whole class interventions using near-pod and other strategies. The lessons include lessons on the foundational concepts. So we are working with, we continue to work with this company, but it is clear that the level of this issue, or the enormity of this issue, requires that we have very, very intense and sustained interventions as we move forward. I was trying to find the strategy that was laid out by the ministry as to what they're going to do. But the intervention is through Renaissance. It's going to involve summer programs. It's going to involve early morning classes during the school, when school reopens. It's going to involve remediation at home. It's going to involve the help of NGOs like Rotary and all of those other entities that have worked so well for so long with issues of literacy. And so this is not a small task, but it has to be coordinated, strategic, and sustained. And this is what we are looking at in the short term. I hope it's short term. It may be short to medium term, to intervene with these young people to allow them to catch up. We are not writing off any child, Mr. Deputy. And so we will do what is necessary to help these children, but it will require a level of sacrifice on all sides to ensure that our children are able to do what they need to do to catch up. So we also tested special needs children. I was trying to find the information. But throughout the country, special needs children were also tested, almost 100%. And so we have an understanding of what is needed with special needs children, because they fared worse than anyone. They were not on virtual learning, forget that. And you have 2 years of just blank. And so apart from the interventions by parents, so in terms of the educational system, January of last year was very important to cause for them to get back into school. And we've now tested and we're able to see how we can intervene with those children. In the new school year, and this is just some of the things, we will continue with assessments, provide intervention to remediate the learning gaps, and to optimize learning. Students will also, as I said, engage in personalized learning opportunities, utilizing an integrated learning system. I think that's the NAIRPOD, that's how they describe the NAIRPOD strategy. And like, as I said, we want volunteers, civic organizations, NGOs, churches. I'm putting out a call right now. We need them to assist us in the one-on-one intervention with students who need serious intervention. The nature of this loss then is historic, and it is something that we must do too. We must move forward to address it. But as I've indicated, it is very likely more broad-based in its manifestations than simple, than only the learning loss associated with the pandemic. I wish to thank our school administrators and teachers who have worked extraordinarily hard to pull off the testing. They had limited devices, Mr. Deputy. I don't know how these teachers and the leaders of the schools were able to pull it off, but they were able, with the resources they had and with a determination to do what had to be done, to cause for these students to be tested in all of their schools. And what we have seen in this exercise, Mr. Deputy, is the highest service of which the entire nation should be proud. Mr. Deputy, the work ahead of us demands a singularity of purpose, but we are confident that with the considerable efforts underway and with the investment of the necessary resources, we will be able to assist our students in full recovery and perhaps, as I've said, even address historic deficits independent of COVID-19. It has to be understood, however, that parents play a critical role in this process. And we will be communicating more with parents so they have a greater appreciation of the extent of the issues that we face.
and the importance of the intervention to the child's future. As I always say when I meet with parents, long after they are gone, they want their children to be able to live decent lives. In the face of the learning loss and the school disruptions, the ministry understood that there is the undergirding mandate of student wellness to build resiliency, as I previously stated, with the psychosocial support. But we also understood the importance of athletic and creative outlets, which had gone silent for 2 years, and they were immediately reinstated. We seek to create a paradigm shift through sports. Earlier this year, the sports unit facilitated the delivery of sports equipment to each school nationally. And this is the first time this has happened in recent memory. Public school-based sporting facilities have been assessed. We have collaborated with the Bahamas Football Association to stage the high school soccer nationals, which was just a few weeks ago. The demographics of the physical education staff was conducted to determine where there are gaps for PE in schools. We've assessed the after-school sports program. A database has been created to facilitate a more efficient means of payment for coaches and officials. I hate to have to put that in there. It has been a challenge, but I believe with additional staff support and a more efficient way of delivering the notices of funds due, that we will be able to respond more efficiently. We've worked in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, with the National High School Championships. We've worked with the local organizing committee for the Carifta Games. We've expanded the Let's Swim Bahamas program by 100%. And this has been a wonderful paradigm for our young people. In collaboration with the GSSSA, we have facilitated track and field sporting events and cross-country, softball and baseball, soccer, golf, and as I said, the swimming with the Let's Swim Bahamas and the Knowleses, who continue to be key partners in assisting students to learn to swim. And programs exist in, I don't think this is the full list, there are more than this, but Stephen Dillett, Albury Sales, Woodcock, T.G. Glover, Sadie Curtis, Thelma Gibson, Sandlands Primary, where children are learning swimming for the first time. I wish to thank Varel Davis, President of the GSSSA, for her committed and tireless work in advancing the after-school sporting activities. She's also a teacher at C.H. Reeves. Teachers. Talks have begun with officials at the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources to add sailing clubs, the national sport, to 10 schools in New Providence for the next academic year. The plan includes 4 primary, 4 junior, and 2 senior high schools. An initiative is underway now, and I've been speaking with Antoinette Seymour, who has been a national chess champion, to work with the ministry to introduce chess to public schools, and that is underway. Madam Speaker, the passion and skill that I have witnessed of these young athletes has been a moving experience for me. I saw it in a couple of the competitions when they were not successful. I won't say lose. The disappointment is so palpable. In one particular final, these are public school students now, they fought so hard. They were playing against a private school and were not successful. And Mr. Deputy, those children cried so hard. And I was trying to understand it. And someone saying, that's how passionate these children are. This tells us, Mr. Deputy, that sports is important for tapping into the abilities, the awareness, the awakening of our young people. And I saw it firsthand over the last several months throughout this country. So, Deputy, we seek to help to build the whole child and to implement policy which advances this core objective. That is the most important thing. Not BJC and BGCSE, that too. But there is a bigger picture of what is happening to a child when they enter that school. Yeah. We seek to build the whole child. And so, to implement policy which advances this core objective requires effective and targeted policy, supported by empirical evidence, not pulled out the sky, and reliant upon data for decision making. It is this commitment that has led to the restructuring of the ministry, which is now underway. So happy that we're doing this, because it's causing for laser-like focus on core strategies, continuous monitoring, greater responsiveness for our teams on the ground, our district superintendents, our school administrators, and our teachers. We want to be a fine-tuned machine from the headquarters right down to the school campus. But this includes reconceptualizing the Planning and Development Center to become more central in policy formation and research. The ministry must engage in more research as to how we deliver education. Can I get an update on my time, please? 50? Okay. So make sure. I'll have to cut. Yeah, right. I ain't trusting you. I ain't trusting you. Mr. Deputy, it is this research that allows us to respond dynamically to the education of our children and yield greater fruit based on their historic performance in national exams. And that's the BJC, the BGCSE, the GLAT, and now compounded by the impact of COVID-19. We sought to understand what factors are influencing these outcomes. Why are these results not manifesting the way in which the nation believes they should? Why is there some suggestion of underperformance? And we want to know what factors are influencing these outcomes. And we want to query, why are students leaving school in grade 12, struggling with literacy, long before a COVID-19 phenomenon? So to design policies to address these deficiencies, the ministry has commissioned a comprehensive study to investigate the factors that impact student learning outcomes of school-age students in the Bahamas. We commissioned the research with the University of the Bahamas, and they're about halfway through this now. I've been talking about it for a while, but it's happening. And they are analyzing which factors influence learning outcomes, both in student high performance and in underperformance. And the study notes that despite, and I quote from this study, despite the widening of access to education in the post-independence era and the strengthening of resources such as teacher preparation and availability of teachers, school construction and organizational restructuring, concern about student learning outcomes, especially academic outcomes, continues. High school graduation rates, for example, do not reflect the level of investment made in the education enterprise, and performance on national examinations invariably fall below expectations. In addition, employers continue to call attention to the absence of relevant skills, including soft skills in high school leavers, in particular those needed to meet the labor market demands. Further, community observers have noted a decline in social behavior, a lack of regard for the personal property of others, and a lack of respect for the rule of law. The purpose of this study, and I'm reading from it, is to determine factors that influence student learning outcomes of school-age children. The data arising from the study will inform policy directions. It is common knowledge that the school and the educational system do not exist in a vacuum. As one of the major institutions of society, the school and educational system is influenced by other social institutions, in particular, the economy, the polity, health, religion. The research literature on student learning notes the influence of factors relating to the following: school, family, community, individual, and policies. And so this is the premise upon which the study is being undertaken, and it goes through how they're going to approach it. I won't go through it at this moment, but they have a strategy of how they will get to the bottom of why we are feeling less than fully satisfied with the results that we are getting from our educational system. And so, Mr. Deputy, we await the findings of this research, which will assist us at getting to the root of deficiencies and vulnerabilities empirically established, and to guide reform and new policy initiatives. We expect this report the research in another few months, and as we study it, we will be able to respond appropriately to address issues that require immediate interventions. A second strategy now underway was by way of a request for proposals of interest that was published last week in the Nassau Guardian, I believe in the Tribune. And this one I'm very interested in, because when we did the testing with Renaissance, we noted that at the high school level, students did, in some instances, better in math than in the reading. And I found that sort of perplexing, and I don't know why. But this particular work that we are undertaking now, it is with the objective of maximizing the performance of our students in mathematics. And as the publication states, the ministry desires to improve the teaching and learning of mathematics throughout the Bahamian archipelago. And this includes strengthening the pedagogical skills and deepening the content knowledge of teachers of mathematics throughout the country, so it's teacher-centered, diagnosing the challenges to learning mathematics as presented by students at all levels of the system, student-centered, and determining the match between expected curriculum outcomes and the availability of human and material resources. And we are expecting this consultation to begin on the 28th of August. And I'm hoping that we will begin to get feedback very quickly, because I'm guessing that there is a seed there about mathematics with the Bahamian child that we need to capitalize on and to see where it takes us. I'm confident it's there. The Ministry of Education has the responsibility. No, that's what they say. I'll move from that there. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, and as I've said, it is our expectation that this research project will give greater insight into the learning modalities of our students as it relates to abstract concepts, and assist in developing strategies that will result in higher across-the-board achievement in mathematics and in other STEM subjects. Mr. Deputy, additionally, we are investigating the efficacy of the integration of the creative arts with core subjects on the school curriculum. This is an interesting approach. We've engaged a consultant from the University of the Bahamas who is running a pilot program in 2 schools that will provide curricular tools and strategies to infuse the arts in core subjects. So they're teaching English or mathematics or geography or history. They will infuse the arts into the delivery of instruction. Arts integration is progressive, as it allows for student-centered teaching and learning practices. It is based on the constructivism learning theory that through arts integration, the gains in learning are maximized, as arts allow for greater social interactions, greater use of critical thinking skills, more experiential learning, reflective practice, active learning as opposed to passive learning. And although it's being piloted now in the 2 schools, and we're going to watch to see how this pilot goes, we are also going to train the trainers so that more schools are added, because we do believe this will be a very effective strategy. We are aiming, Mr. Deputy, for quality integration of culture and the arts across the core subjects. We believe that this will connect students and teachers to each other and to the larger community. We're looking for students to demonstrate deeper understanding and mastery of the arts and their core subjects. So it has a dual purpose. By learning through the arts, students will be better able to problem solve, understand the role they play in their own lives, be better at conflict resolution, learn perseverance, improve their ability to withstand frustration and critique, and become aware of themselves as capable and productive citizens. The performing arts and the creative arts will therefore take on greater import in our curriculum reform. Mr. Deputy, all over the country, in schools everywhere, we see the example of naturally gifted children. We also know that this can enhance learning in general. They find there's a correlation between the study of music and mathematics, and can be the avenue for scholarships, and many members of school bands and music students, visual artists, and students of dance have been able to access tertiary education scholarships for higher education. Additionally, Mr. Deputy, in order to understand, so that's the arts, integrating arts into core subjects, but also blowing it up in our curriculum. Additionally, in order to understand student performance overall, a review of the GLAT results over the last 10 years has been undertaken. We went back and we saw the same thing basically over and over and over, and in some instances deteriorations, and discovered that there were no interventions. GLAT is a diagnostic test. It requires intervention, but somehow that fell by the wayside. And so what we have determined that going forward, that when the students are preparing for GLAT, after they have completed the GLAT exams, that there will be an analysis of what it's telling us in grade 3 and in grade 6, so that we are able to not cause for something that's glaring and showing it right in your face, and not intervening and just pushing the child through school, through the various grades. So GLAT is a very critical instrument for assessing, and I guess we say assessing student performance. It's not like a BJC or BGCSE. And so we decided that as we move forward now, GLAT will resume or reestablish its placement in its role in helping us understand what's happening in the exams. And so a number of strategies were undertaken to move the needle in this. And there was collaboration amongst stakeholders, including primary curriculum, examination personnel. We met with the PTA. Almost 1,000 teachers, parents showed up for that meeting. We met with curriculum officers. We spoke to district superintendents, and on and on and on, which allows us to now get everyone on the same page in anticipation of the GLAT exam, and also in the analysis and the interventions once those results are disclosed. Madam Speaker, a key to the stimulus of knowledge and the creation of a rounded student is a relevant and appropriately constructed curriculum. There is no doubt that the rapidly evolving world, and in particular the growing importance of digitization and the growing importance of ICT, mandates that an aggressive approach must be made of curriculum reform. As a result, there is continued revision, and that's been going on now for a few years, and in various subjects. And then we want to ensure that there is greater oversight in the implementation of the curriculum, so it's monitored to see if it's effective in its stimulation of knowledge. And there are a number of efforts that are underway to ensure a sharpened approach to curriculum reform, which includes professional development sessions and guidance and support for new and veteran teachers. Mr. Deputy, a recent survey of primary school teachers and in discussions with many primary school teachers, including, I've heard it over and over, they've expressed their concerns, which has caused for us to go and review what is happening internationally and regionally in the primary school curriculum. This is an effort that's now under review with a view to addressing the concerns of what I call course overload in the primary school children, amongst primary school children. Whilst we want to ensure increased emphasis is placed on foundational areas of literacy and numeracy, and in fact, we're looking now to see how to double that up, literacy and numeracy as a critical component of the primary school curriculum. And then throughout the course of primary school, or in any given grade, then you deal with the other critical content. But the manner in which it's delivered, you ensure that the critical components of that content are delivered to the student. So we want to revisit how primary school students are being taught first the foundational subjects, which is where we're seeing, and all of our data is telling us, is where there are weaknesses. So we have to look at it, we can't ignore it. And then secondly, to see how to tailor the wider curriculum to ensure that students are able to have a rigorous interaction in these core areas. And we are also now looking at how to integrate ICT in all subjects, because it's just like that. And then, of course, we want our children to learn about the world, the whole child. You don't just go to school to do GLAT and BJC. The purpose of school is to help develop our children into responsible adults who are competent and capable. 25 minutes? Okay. Competent and capable. Because I think there is a danger that there is a one-dimensional view of what should be happening in school. And so we want to ensure our children learn about climate change, emotional intelligence, financial literacy. And all of this has to be integrated into the curriculum reform. But one of the major aspects of the reform is being stimulated by the introduction of a new textbook. And the history curriculum has not been changed since 1982. 1982. Much of the past curriculum reflected ideas of the regimes on the colonial and European influence on the Bahamas. That's how we were viewed. Additionally, as the Bahamas has progressed almost 50 years since independence, the curriculum and history texts reflect the realities of a history of the modern period of nation formation and the contemporary period of social, political, and economic history, while not ignoring the colonial legacy of the past. We're real people, and we've done some real things. The supervision of the text was led by Dr. Christopher Curry, an historian and the director of the AMMC, and acting Assistant Director of Education, Pearline Baker. 12 distinguished writers have completed chapters on the textbook, and they are Dr. Keith Tinker, Dr. Michael Pateman, Patricia Glinton Nicholas, Dr. Olivia Saunders, Dr. Lisa Lawler Fuller, Dr. Cleveland Innes III, Dr. Grace Turner, Christopher Davis, Dr. Ian Strawn, Patrice Williams, Namiko Miller, and Kim Outen Stubbs. The text, which is nearing completion, is a collaborative effort to address the major themes developed in the history curriculum. As such, the 2-volume series will address substantively Bahamian history topics outlined in 7 thematic areas. Although the broader Caribbean history is included in the thematic chapters, it is important to give a more concentrated thrust to Bahamian history, particularly in the modern era of decolonization, independence, post-independence developments. It is also worth noting that a concentrated effort to place indigenous and African societies within the same analytical and thematic framework was important, given that these cultural areas and groups had direct impact on the emergence of the Bahamian collective memory and heritage. This approach also aligns chronologically with the development of world civilizations outside the traditional Eurocentric approach to history. It is important to understand civilizations that had a rich tapestry and culture before the transatlantic slave trade, which was inaugurated by Europeans in the 15th century, within the 15th century. So with above in mind, the span of the first volume covers indigenous and African societies up to the contemporary period of modern nation-state formation. Each chapter was commissioned to a specific writer, and the entire project was overseen by an editorial board and chief editor. The value of this approach allowed for the production of a text in an efficient and cost-effective fashion, while also incentivizing the work of each individual chapter to a commissioned author. And as my time is running out, but at the end of the day, we will have, for the first time, okay, so, a curriculum committee spearheaded by Mrs. Pearline Baker and Associates within the ministry has been established to review the previous history curriculum for senior high school students. Mr. Deputy, this is a serious move. A revised curriculum, serious move. A revised curriculum for both Bahamian, Caribbean, and U.S. domestic history and race relations was developed that focused on major themes and concentrations inclusive of post-independence considerations. The curriculum addressed gaps in the literature and recent trends in the historiography. Specific authors were targeted through an official private call for papers. So in this curriculum reform, we understand that our student population is talented in diverse ways. Our curriculum must anticipate our diversity in interests, but also the diverse needs of our economy. We believe that this new text will bring a level of awakening to the consciousness of our students and engender pride and develop self-esteem. But in our understanding that children are diverse, there's no cookie cutter. We started to, and the ministry's name has changed. It has led to a strong focus on technical and vocational education, which must be centered in the curriculum, not sidelined, centered along with the other core areas. And the Minister of State, the member for Yamakro, will speak more closely to this issue, including the introduction of an apprenticeship program, the expansion of BTVI into a LUSRA, Exuma, Abaco, and the reintroduction of the Technical Cadet Corps, and a collaboration with the LJM Maritime Institute for the creation of the National Maritime College. And he will speak more detailed to that. But I have to take this one, which is the New Bahamas Polytechnic Institute. Mr. Deputy, we will repurpose the existing infrastructure there on Wolf Road, which was formerly the Star Academy, for an innovative educational experience. And we're engaged in active dialogue with the leadership of the Bahamas Conference, the Seventh-day Adventists, relative to the capacity of the former site of the Bahamas Academy School on Wolf Road. Previously referred to as the Star Academy, it is envisaged that this site will become the home of the Bahamas' first Polytechnic Institute of Excellence, transforming academics to application in an effort to bridge employment gaps. And we're going to see this, Mr. Deputy. As a Polytechnic Institute, the site will serve as an upskilling hub for Bahamian students, providing increased opportunities for the development of career and technical education skill sets. The Institute will advance training in a phased-in approach using an academy model supported by state-of-the-art laboratories and facilities. Students may opt, for example, to be a part of the Academy of Information Technology, the Academy of Hospitality, or the Academy of Construction, all providing highly specialized sector training supported by certifications that validate training content. The Academy of Construction, for example, will provide exposure opportunities in advanced carpentry, where furniture making will be a course of study, but so too will be drywall installation and boat building for cultural posterity. Construction subject matter experts will provide training for students in computer-aided drafting. This is taking carpentry and construction to new levels in training of young people. Computer-aided drafting, HVAC, tile laying, roofing, with a potential capstone course being the construction of a small home, integrating the business of construction, which includes business planning, bidding, sourcing with the technical requirements. So this student will learn the entire gamut of construction. The introduction of because he could be a #1 contractor, not too far from then. The introduction of the Institute will center on the Academy of Construction, inclusive of the trade and technology to aid the trade. In this initial phase, the Institute will also facilitate a maritime component in conjunction with the LJM Maritime Academy, the Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping, STCW, training, and seeking to enhance our maritime commerce capacity. The holistic vision is that as content is expanded and funded for career, technical, and vocational education and training, the branches offering such training, high schools, BTVI, UB, the Polytechnic Institute, will be categorically layered to ensure that credentials are not overlapping. So BTVI has nothing to fear, and are collective relative to the exit objective of either a diploma, a certification, or credit toward a degree program. We will brand the Polytechnic Institute of Excellence as the advanced certification mechanism for career, technical, and vocational education in the country, where theoretical principles are supported by advanced infrastructure and, where appropriate, cutting-edge simulation interaction for relevance and rigor. And so that is well on its way, and it's a new paradigm. It is this paradigm shift and the reality of 21st century economies. Sorry, the cost anticipated for that is $13 million to complete state-of-the-art facility and equipment infrastructure pegged at $565,000. It is this paradigm shift and the reality of 21st century economies, the deficits of skills in our own economy, and the reports have told us over and over and over, we give work permits because our Bahamians are said not to have these skills. This has led to a more integrated approach of technical and vocational education to mainstream education. We also, and in this regard, so I say for that, this technical and vocational education is legitimate. It is central to the economy. It feeds and fuels the passions of our young people, and it has value and meaning in the world. So we have, in this regard, also heard the cries of teachers, parents, students, and the community at large as to the anomalies in the high school diploma. I can now say the old high school diploma. For example, and just go quickly, the inability to recover Fs in grade 10, you can't recover it. The duplication of criteria causing what might be called a double jeopardy for students, which is the credit system and the GPA. And our review of approaches globally to the graduation criteria. And you know, the Bahamas is one of the few places that I've seen, I'm not sure I've seen it really anywhere right up and now, that is requiring these national exams as criteria to graduate. In Canada, for example, they have a cumulative approach. Grade 10, 11, 12, everything you do counts. It's not a be-all in the examination. It is different components that lead to credits, which may include examination. But unlike the Bahamas, I have not been able to find where, and maybe I know in the region they have different pathways. But anyway, this is. And I looked at North America. I did not see this type of criteria, but it's ours, and so we have to make sure that it continues to measure appropriately our young people. So on August 25th, 2022, at a press conference, a team of professionals representing a cross-section of education stakeholders were commissioned as the Bahamas High School Diploma National Review Commission. Members were carefully selected and included some of our countries, and I need people to hear this. These were the ones who guided us. They included some of our country's most distinguished retired and serving educators, and they were from all over the country, all over. And some, at least one, was a former director of education. And some were deputy directors of education. Then there were former educators, and then there were people from the public and private sectors who are not educators, but are in the real world out there. Additionally, the membership included the presidents of 3 education stakeholder unions: the Bahamas Educators Managerial Union, the Bahamas Union of Teachers, and the Bahamas Educators, Counselors, and Allied Workers Union. It was during the initial meeting that the commission was given the official mandate to review all requirements of the Bahamas High School Diploma Program and to make considered recommendations toward the improvement of the initiative moving forward. I am pleased to advise that in keeping with the official mandate to engage the community and identify concerns, the Commission, over a period of 2 months, from the 12th of October to the 15th of December of 2022, conducted a total of 58 very extensive town hall meetings with varying groups of education stakeholders throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It is also important to note that 55 of the 58 town hall meetings were working sessions face-to-face. The only virtual stakeholder engagement sessions were facilitated for the islands of Mayaguana, the Berry Islands, and Rum Key. So they were working very hard. The engagement permitted members of the Commission the opportunity to garner a deeper awareness and appreciation of the concerns expressed across the nation relative to the criteria to earn a high school diploma. Stakeholders expressed concerns about the EMIS LMS system, the virtual school, poor connectivity, shortages of teachers, to the domicility policy, and accommodations, among other general matters. The Commission concluded its work in January of 2023 and advanced the final report during the 3rd week of February, offering justified recommendations compiled by 6 working subcommittees from within the Commission membership. The subcommittees examined criteria, data collections, justifications, appeals, inclusion, and industry acceptance. The recommendations were reviewed by the senior leadership team of my ministry, another tier of scrutiny, and 90% of all recommendations were accepted, with the remaining 10% amalgamated or awaiting resources, financial or human, to facilitate the necessary action. In keeping with our commitment to remain transparent with stakeholders, my team and I met with the Commission members headed by the Chairman, Mr. Cecil Thompson, internal and external stakeholders, public and independent schools. It's very important to note that public and independent schools were on this commission, and the general public via press conference advising of the recommendations and the way forward. The recommendations are effective immediately. with positive implications for the class of 2023. Of the immediate recommendations advanced, and this is probably the most significant, the criteria were modified. As opposed to 4 BJCs of math, English, a science, natural science, and a social science, students are now required to secure the 4 BJCs as previously, which would include math and English, but can also include any other 2 subjects of that student's choice. And I look to see which BJCs we're looking at. Religious studies, technical drawing, art, Spanish, French, literature, craft study. A student now will have to get math and English, but any 2 BJCs of their choice are subjects they may feel passionate about, and that may perhaps stimulate even higher performance in those core subjects of English and math. And so that will be the prevailing criteria at the end of this school year if students have 4 BJCs in these varying areas. Students now have 3 pathway options to earn a diploma: the general diploma, which I've just described, an honors diploma, which I will talk about in a minute, or an equivalency diploma. For the first time, industry recognized certifications outside of the BJC and BGCSE. These are industry recognized certifications. They have value. They can be considered to satisfy the academic requirements for earning a diploma. The credits program, which provided a duplicated criteria, were removed, and students are now required to satisfy the cumulative 2.0 GPA. The Bahamas High School Diploma Honors Pathway criteria is as follows. Students are expected to maintain a minimum of 3.0 grade point average over 3 years. This is if you want to get honors in the high school diploma. This is grades 10 to 12. You're expected to have passed 4 BJCs with B passes. English language, math, and science are mandatory, along with any other BJC subject. Students are expected to obtain 3 BGCSEs with C passes or above, or the SAT score of 1,000 or an ACT score of 20. They should participate in leadership in the school, for example, serve as a prefect, and participate in 3 extracurricular activities. They're expected to maintain 80% attendance, 80% punctuality over 3 years, grades 10 to 12. They are also expected to participate in 30 hours of community service and 20 hours of job readiness training over 3 years. Now, Mr. Deputy, 3 parent-teacher conferences requirements were removed, and a lot of people were a bit puzzled by that. The commission felt, and I agree, that it penalized students for their parents failing, which was unfair, and imposed a criteria for graduation to be fulfilled by someone other than the student herself. But this does not mean that parental support is not required. It is. And this is an issue we're finding in the schools. And it's important for the student's success. And parents need to ensure they support their children in school. But it is simply being removed as a criteria for the student, who will not now be disadvantaged from earning a diploma if their parents fail to act. The following recommendations were also accepted and enforced or implemented immediately. The formation of an independent justification and appeals committee to review all special consideration requests where students may not have received a diploma. This is particularly important for the students in Abaco and Grand Bahama who were subject to Dorian, and also schools where there were no teachers teaching the subjects where they were saying was mandatory. So how could you get it? No teacher was there. The formation of an oversight committee to hold the ministry accountable for implementation of the recommendation. The establishment of a Bahamas High School dependent diploma unit to be staffed by 5 team members, and 2 are already in place, and 2 are become very near. I want to extend gratitude to the commission, and in particular the chairman, Cecil Thompson, a veteran educator who gave so much of himself for this work. And I just want to say that Again, as in last year, all school leavers in grade 12 will collectively mark the end of this. They've been in school 10 years, whatever it is. They're going to collectively mark the end of their school life. Those who get the high school diploma get it. Those who get BGCSE will get it. But we're not going to alienate or marginalize people because they ain't got a piece of paper. And this is because, Mr. Deputy, we are seeking to build confidence and to allow our students to create pathways to success in their high school years. We want to build their spirits. We don't want to mash up our children by these practices, in my view. The greatest opportunity, and I'm just on this issue, and I really run out of time now for true. Let me not go there. I'm going to move quickly. Pre-primary. We've committed to 100% access to pre-primary. We're far from it. We've developed a lot of strategies and public-private partnerships, which has allowed for greater access, but we have fallen below the mark in terms of this and the deadline we've set for ourselves. Pre-primary is critical, and most children, because there's no universal access, go into grade 1 without any foundational learning. And this is why review of the curriculum of the primary school is so important, because there is a deficit. If you have the pre-primary, you come into grade 1 more prepared. But if you haven't, and most haven't, because it's not there unless you have the resources, then you are disadvantaged. And so for the time being, the primary school must be cognizant of what is required to assist and bolster students entering grade 1 for the first time. But we have to look at strategies as to how we can further expand pre-primary education to our children nationwide. And then I want to talk about the work of the guidance counselors, the school psychologists, and the speech therapy unit, and all of the work that's being done. The trip to Eleuthera, where we sent an entire team for more than a week who tested children and identified issues, and we're going to do that throughout the country, and we're now developing responses for those children in those places. And on the issue of special education, this is another area where there are deficits. I am distraught. I hear from parents and say, my child has autism and I can't get him or her in school. And the mother can't understand. Why can't her child get in school? Her child has a right. But we do not have the classrooms. We don't have the human resource. We just entered an MOU with Barry University, which allows for which is now training, and they're about halfway through, 14 special ed teachers, so that we can, and we've identified classroom space that we can make places wherever the school is and the classroom is there to allow us to quickly jumpstart, get these children in school. And and then we've discovered, because of the teacher shortages, we've deployed specialized teachers, special ed teachers throughout doing different things, and we're going to pull them back and bring a focus to that so that they're able to address the needs of our special ed children. And I want to say to the parents who are fearful and frustrated, we know you are there, we have not forgotten you, and we will do all that we can to assist in taking this forward. I wanted, Grand Bahama, same thing. Yeah, same thing everywhere. And we have islands, with small populations, and they need special ed teachers. This is a very real problem. We have to find a solution. One of the broadest, I want to speak about the tertiary level institution for the School for the Creative and Performing Arts. And this is something that is very exciting, and the Prime Minister's office is assisting in this. And this is for the establishment of a performing arts tertiary institute, and which will allow full-time tertiary level tuition, and only those who have finished high school will be eligible to attend. We're still very much in the planning phase, and we want to make sure that scholarships are available to every Bahamian who satisfies the entry requirements to be able to attend. We want this to be the best school in the region, and plan to make it attractive to fee-paying international students. We take ourselves seriously in the Bahamas. The syllabus will cover all the disciplines which I mentioned earlier, as well as some of the technical skills which are essential to the creative arts. Courses will run for 3 years, 1 year along with shorter courses on evenings and the weekend. In September, the National Dance School will be reopened, which is the first step toward moving to full-time training. And immediately we expect to launch short writing courses thereafter. In the short term, classes will be held over various sites until a purpose-built space can be created. We're waiting for no building. A number of properties are being considered for the permanent premises. And in order to better prepare younger people for enrollment at this school, we are already developing the arts syllabus in primary and secondary schools. So happy about that. I'll say more about this in due course. With our colleagues at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, we are also exploring ways to support the talent which emerges during the National Arts Festival. So we're gonna have, what you call them, scouts, eh? Scouts looking for talent, and trust me, it's there. We are fully aware that no one is going to attend the school unless they can see a career path afterwards. And so we are already working on and with a number of institutions. Everything we are doing seeks to build on existing talent and structures. And so we will actively pursue a range of partnerships around the Bahamas, around the world, so that we can provide programs and opportunities to make our people simply the best. Tina Turner, may her soul rest in peace. And at 80, how old was she? 83? Woo! They never looked so good, man. Shortly after the 50th, and I mean, for someone who was some years away from that, I already, I'm falling a little short of the issue. Shortly after the 50th anniversary independence celebrations in July, we will launch a consultation document and begin a series of conversations to get feedback from the widest possible range of members. Mr. Deputy, thousands upon thousands of Bahamians will be touched by the creativity and talent coming out of this school. Thousands upon thousands will benefit directly and indirectly. These are the first steps toward building a school, and our new day's success will shine brightly for generations. This is such a powerful intervention, Mr. Deputy, to the heart and soul of, or the ethos of who we are as a people. And as my time further runs out, I just want to say that on the issue, and the Minister of State, member for Golden Gates is here, but on the issue of the regularization of school board employees, the library personnel, and weekly paid employees, that work is very advanced. We work closely with the Ministry of Public Service. Our HR staff are working very hard. They're currently working on the service-wide promotion exercise, and I've been advised that hundreds can expect advancements within the clerical, executive, and registry career paths. In fact, the majority of individuals within the clerical field can expect to move up 2 steps during this exercise that is scheduled to be completed this month. And then those employees in the M and T scales have also been reviewed on an individual basis to determine their eligibility for advancement based on performance. And tremendous inroad has been made with the general service workers, the teachers' aide, the security officers, the janitorial staff, then, of course, the National Job Creation Skills Enhancement Program. All of these workers are on the radar. The Minister of State has spoken to it comprehensively. She understands the vision. She has brought the passion and the fire and put in place the structures to ensure this happens. And so I want to assure our people that this is work underway. And we are also working with the Ministry of Public Service on the career paths of guidance counselors, school psychologists, teachers, library personnel, and security personnel. This is a very important work. It is underway as we speak, and we expect to bring some closure to these issues to our staff. And I want to thank our human resource and finance officers for their very hard work in achieving these results. Despite the many challenges, including working within a manual system, they work hard. I wanted to talk about the LMS because this is one of the things that showed up when the children were not in school, and we did the research with the Department of Statistics. But I will just say in a nutshell, we have done some incredible innovations with this system. It is now multi-purpose. We brought in a specialist. Actually, I called the Prime Minister in Africa when we had a crisis. And he pointed me in a direction, and it was an excellent direction. We have a consultant who has helped us to regularize, to create ease of use, and to enhance purpose of the LMS. And I want to say that the issues that we have seen historically, I don't think that we will see. Of course, with technology, anything can happen. The learning management system, and yes, it's the education management. What's the I for? Anyway, it's the learning. It's the thing that it's the platform that was delivering instruction to students during the pandemic, and we found that its deficiencies were a main reason why students had disappeared from the radar. I was going to talk about UNESCO, but UNESCO has really become more front and central and really manifesting in so many ways. I want to thank the Secretary General, which is Ms. Deidre Bevans. We have been able to access grants for research in Cat Island. We've submitted Junkanoo as an intangible cultural heritage, and that adjudication is underway. We have named a new ambassador. His name is His Excellency Jamal Roll, known as the celebrity artist, and he has. I have met with him. He is passionate about culture. He comes from Engliston originally, but he understands that in communities that some may write off, you will have the wealth and richness that is unbelievable. And he understands that, and I believe he will bring passion and fire to the work of the UNESCO. Stay tuned to the work of UNESCO. They will manifest in more fundamentally in a way. And one of the things we did at the recent Jazz Festival is that we had Mr. Gifton Jellin, a Bahamian from Engliston. And this young man, and I'm wondering if I could get 5 more minutes just so I could wind up, but I want to talk about Gifton Jellin. Gifton is from Engliston, and he went through our public school system. He is an incredibly gifted young man, and he was able to win a scholarship to one very prestigious school in the United States, and then he was sought out by, what's school name now? Juilliard. It went off my brain just now. By Juilliard. He is being mentored by Wynton Marsalis. So we're not mentored anymore because Wynton now sees him as a peer, performer. Yeah, but he was scholarship by Juilliard, and he is now establishing discussions with the Ministry of Education and Juilliard on the developing music, more, develop music programs. Additionally, he was here just a couple days ago, and he held a workshop at Bahama, and we sent students from C.V. Bethel and Government High, I don't know where they came, different high schools, and they went, and because he brought an entire band, and they were playing with the top performers in the world, and these kids were so, when Tickle Pink doesn't describe it, they felt like they were a part of something really very important and meaningful. And I want to thank Gifton, because he is a boy from Engliston who has done extremely well, and he ain't forget where he come from. He ain't forget where he come from. I am proud of him. And can I get 5 more minutes so I could just finish, please, Mr. Deputy? Thank you very much. I'm moving quickly. Look at what is this? I want to talk about scholarships. And the millions that are spent in scholarships, and in particular the public scholarship program, which is open access for public school students. And let me tell you, Ms. Debbie, public school students are just spectacular. One of them, I spoke about him the other day. He's from Engliston. He is a student at R.M. Bailey. He entered, he was like a 1-point-something GPA. By the time he graduated, the highest GPA at R.M. Bailey, he just graduated a few weeks ago from his university, magna cum laude. And this is repeated across the board, where our young kids from communities, the communities that you might say, but listen, I'm telling you, it's jewels, and this is what we understand is in our public school system. It's filled with jewels. It needs refinement. And it's an understanding that they're not clones, that they're not robots, that they're living, dynamic human beings, that they come from sometimes difficult environments and circumstances, but that in the right environment, that what they can be is mind-boggling beyond our imaginations. And I just wanted that there was one point I think I have to take up, which is the member for Kalani, who I think misrepresented the amendments to the University of the Bahamas legislation. That has nothing to do with putting VAT on anyone. What it says, and I had it here a moment ago, it's merely seeking to create consistency with the general legislation and deals with when land is sold by the university, the purchaser is not exempt. The university is exempt, and I'm told that never happens. They don't sell their property. It's just for consistency in the legislation. No new VAT is being put on anyone, and to say so is a misrepresentation. I just want to say that. And finally, let me see what else. I want to talk about University of Bahamas, the work that they're doing with the Ministry of the Environment and the new site in Grand Bahama, etc. And then, I have here the education plan, but I'll just read the headings of it. This is the education goals: short term, medium term, long term. 1, the curriculum. 2, academic intervention. 3, special education and services. 4, technical and vocational education and training. Behavior modification management, tertiary education, teacher recruitment and retention, pre-primary, technology and innovation, research and development, sports development, professional development, national pride. And let me just say on national pride, Mr. Deputy, we purchased flagpoles for every school in this nation a few weeks ago. We bought flags for every school in this nation, and we have mandated that at least once a week, and we hope we get to more than once a week, flags are raised on school campuses so our children understand what that flag represents and their obligation to contribute substantively to the people of this nation. Parental involvement, school plant management, and security. And I think that is. I end by saying this, that I have, Madam Speaker, the delivery of education in any national population is at best a challenging exercise. It is not an exact science, and the effectiveness of strategies are often mitigated by external factors. It is critical that there is an unrelenting monitoring, implementation of research-based strategies, that results are measured, and the necessary modifications made. It is not static or fixed. At the core of the enterprise is the future of our country. These young people are invaluable, and we must work tirelessly to ensure they succeed, no matter who they are or where they come from. Every child counts, and we will fight for their future. The Minister of State and I have visited scores of schools, perhaps close to 100, believe it or not, all over the country, throughout New Providence. We have met virtually with thousands of teachers and with hundreds of administrators in person, and we have met parents nationwide. I believe, and I am supremely optimistic, that this is a new day in education. I pray God's guidance and strength and blessings and protection over the stakeholders in this enterprise, so that they are able to continue in strength to do the necessary work for our nation's future. We can and we must build this nation with our own hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Marco City.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. I won't prolong the issue much longer, but just 2 matters with respect to the presentation that we thought was very in-depth and comprehensive. If the minister would indulge, with respect to the Performing Arts School, which we think it's an idea whose time has come. It's been discussed for quite some time, and certainly as a creative myself, I welcome it. I'm wondering, however, whether or not the government intends to continue to pursue the issue of magnet creative arts school, which was contemplated earlier under both administrations, and Government High, I believe, was one of those schools on its way, and how would that be integrated? And then the second was there has been discussions at UB about the possibility of setting up a creative arts school. And again, you have as one of your, in fact, the heir to the president, Dr. Ian Strawn, who is himself a creative, but certainly discussions had gone on with him and others about amalgamating the various aspects of the creative arts, but creating a performing arts school there. And to what extent would that be contemplated in terms of UB being one of the locations where you could have a school of the performing arts at the University of the Bahamas? So that's the second question. And then the third would be, I wonder if the minister during this occasion might explain the process by which the new president of the College of the Bahamas would be selected. We know that the president has resigned, and they have a very competent board that I have the utmost respect for, and wondering what is the process. I'm just wondering what the process is that would be used in the new selection of the president.
I'll be facilitative, because I've been up here 2 hours talking. On the first point of the magnet schools, our advice is to discourage magnet schools. And what we're finding now is that, for example, in music, we have incredible music programs throughout the school system. So we want to share it around, keep it broad-based, mainstream it, so that you don't have one school that's in silos, as the Prime Minister said. On the second point of the UB, the contemplated UB School of Performing Arts, the work is underway, and the Prime Minister's office is really helping very tremendously with this. They are speaking to University of the Bahamas, Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, the School of Dance, all of the various components of the arts and different schools, with a view to seeing how there can be a like amalgamation, streamlined approach forward. So that discussion is already underway. On the question of the process of the selection, as you know, the University of the Bahamas is autonomous, and I think I had expressed comments in here before about my views about certain things, about decisions taken, but it's their jurisdiction, and I think perhaps the question should be best put to the board. It's a board, it's a diverse board. It's, I think you named someone on that board. Did you ask him? He know better than you and me. So, but as to the deliberations, I'm not aware. The person who they have named is someone, I think, that's known, a known quantity in her role at the University of the Bahamas and at McGill University and elsewhere. So, but I think it's probably best asked of the board as to the process by which decisions were made after the current president submitted his resignation.
Honorable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very much for.
Let me just remind the members that we have, in the middle stage, we have question and answer, so I really want to.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. I'd just like to say to the member for Cat Island, Rumkins, and Salvador, I believe that we are kindred spirits on the University of the Bahamas, and so certainly we're looking forward to hearing from the Prime Minister at some point on his thoughts once he has been briefed, because it's that, sorry? On the University of the Bahamas and the way forward. And so it is my hope. It is an autonomous body, but every one of our autonomous body, the Prime Minister's weighed in on at some point. And so we hope no departure would exist with this as well. And just for the record, we certainly support the university. I'm a graduate, as many persons in here are graduates of UB. And so we're looking forward to ensuring that we have a transparent process that the entire public could be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for South Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Thank you for acknowledging me, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to make good on my obligation in this honorable House to the hardworking, independent, and outstanding people that make up this constituency of South Beach, for which I have been given the privilege to represent and on whose behalf I am permitted to stand and speak on all national matters that may arise. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I also wish to thank my wife of 25 consecutive years, who continues to support me in this endeavor. No breaks, no breaks. You might need it every once in a while, but no breaks.
Yeah, he ain't want to eat tonight. Ain't no dinner tonight. No dinner tonight.
Who continues to support me in this endeavor and who is the key component in so many of my successes over the years, whether in this capacity or another capacity. She has truly been the source of my strength, and she, along with my family, my South Beach team, my support village, are truly an addition to my life that I count a blessing and a joy. And of course, she knows I love her completely.
Better say a little more.
A little more. Mr. Deputy Speaker, here we are again. In yet another budget cycle, and Mr. Deputy, I wish to admit that of all the proceedings of this honorable place, it is the budget communication and the opportunity to participate in the budget proceedings that I cherish most. And it is the one procedure that I anxiously await. I do so, Mr. Deputy, because this is the opportunity for government to be as open and as honest and transparent with the people of this nation as possible. Mr. Deputy, it is an opportunity for an elected government to show in detail its successes, to address any miscalculations, but more importantly, Mr. Deputy, a government gets, in simple English, to communicate its vision and charted course on the way forward. Budget cycles, Mr. Deputy, allow a government to lay out exactly how it intends to make a more secure and progressive Bahamas. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, is the highlight of my involvement in this honorable chamber. Mr. Deputy Speaker, during these proceedings, we, this government, gets to lay out the how. Because after all, Mr. Deputy, it is the how in governance and policy making that affects people outside of this place. I must then pause to say that in this current budget cycle, it is this administration's goal to offer a budget for the security and progress of the Bahamas. And on the question of how, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we intend to do it, then I must echo the sentiments of the Prime Minister and say we intend to do it without implementing any new taxes. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the what we will do in this new budget cycle is: one, we will continue to oversee more exhilarating successes in this economy. Two, we plan to do more of the work that translates into real, tangible change for our people. And three, we shall persist in efforts to bring about serious development to our family islands, which will usher in a new day of progressiveness in an attempt to keep them in pace with the evolving world while being careful not to disrupt their traditions, culture, and unique way of life. Mr. Deputy, the why? The why in this budget cycle, Mr. Deputy, is quite simple. Our reason for seeking to create a more progressive and secure future this time is very similar to the why in 1967. Firstly, Mr. Deputy, we are doing it because we are the Progressive Liberal Party. We are the party of progressivism, and we are the party of reform. Mr. Deputy, we are visionaries we've been the visionaries behind the concepts of nationhood, systems like the Defense Force, national insurance, and of course the list goes on. That is why we do it, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and we will do it again and then again and again, simply because that is what we do. While it is true, and I'm sure the records of this House will reflect such, and while I'm proud to be a progressive member of this progressive administration under this progressive leadership, let me without pause state, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that chief among the reasons why we are creating a budget that is aggressive, responsive, bold, and courageous as this one is because the Bahamian people deserve it. They are worthy of this, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and we are happy to do it. There will be no new taxes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in this budget cycle. However, we are pleased to affirm that we will simply do what is necessary to collect what is owed to the Bahamian people, which will allow us to sponsor Bahamian innovation, ingenuity, while providing the perfect balance of social safety nets. This is our strategy. We are seeking to be the government that does not merely boast of including Bahamians in the development of the Bahamas, but rather a government that allows them to build the Bahamas as they desire it to be so. It has been 20 months since we were allowed this opportunity, Mr. Deputy. And whether good or bad, prosperous or not, robust or ailing, the economy of the Bahamas is what it is because of the efforts of this administration. That said, Mr. Deputy, I am pleased to say publicly that we are, on this side, are prepared to take full responsibility for what the economy is today in a post-COVID-19 environment. Mr. Deputy, we on this side, we are not prepared to suck sour grapes or cry crocodile tears over the state that we meant the country or our citizenry. We, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we were elected to govern, and from where I stand, all indications suggest that we are doing just that. While our critics would say that our unmatched tourism numbers are due to COVID fatigue spin-offs, we would say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the record-breaking arrivals in tourism are now better facilitated through new systemic changes and the opening of 2 new airports. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, more developments or more airport developments are on the way, as stated by the Prime Minister. While it is good to be a government that builds things, this administration is better than that. We've always been the administration of the people. Mr. Deputy, and this is why the minimum wage also went up under this administration. So that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, our response is simply, while we may never be able to fully eradicate the poor from among us, we on this side will always be here to do what we can to wipe tears from every eye. At least I become overzealous and run out of time. But how they say it? It's really the National Student Breakfast Program for me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that tells the story of our commitment to people. It speaks volumes to this notion of being a caring administration. You know, I contemplated trying a breakfast program in my constituency. And as we ran through the numbers, it was just too expensive. We had to rely to just, donate monies to some breakfast spots that we know students would attend and they would get free breakfasts. But as to do it, just from a constituency standpoint, it was just too difficult. To be very honest with you, we as a nation will reap quality benefits very quickly from this program. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is a great pleasure that I get to advise this country and this honorable House on the continuing plans and activities of the Straw Market Authority and the Water and Sewage Corporation, and how these entities impact the financial resources of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. These two entities are subsidies of the Ministry of Works and Utilities and have been placed in my direct purview by the Minister of Works in my role as Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Deputy Speaker, art and culture continue to play a critical role in the attractiveness of the Bahamas and the global village around it. As such, over the past decade, statistical indicators and data on the cultural sector, as well as operational activities, have underscored the fact that art and culture can be powerful drivers for development with community-wide social, economic, and environmental impact. Through you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am pleased to advise the country today that the Straw Market Authority throughout the Bahamas continues to drive innovation and source creative skills which bolster a strong revolving relationship within our economy. Straw markets continue to act as a magnet that help to drive growth in other sectors, especially that of tourism. Beyond their economic impact, Mr. Deputy, Bahamian straw markets also have significant social impact, from supporting the health and well-being of our citizens, to promoting social inclusion and local social capital. The Straw Market Authority is poised to become a significant driver in the continuance of the resilience economic recovery of the Bahamas. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am pleased to advise that the Straw Market Authority and markets under its purview are well on the way to a full recovery after the devastating setback it sustained due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Deputy Speaker, on March 13, 2023, the straw markets in New Providence have been operational on a 7-day work week to all vendors, providing facilities for over 500 vendors at a rate of $35 per week. Mr. Deputy Speaker, because of this, the rental income line item projected is to exceed $910,000 over the course of the next fiscal period. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in accordance with the Ministry of Health mandate, we continue to operate in a COVID-safe environment as we endeavor to protect the reputation of our facilities while simultaneously looking at the health and well-being of our citizens, firstly, along with that of the many residents and guests who visit our sites on a daily basis. Mr. Deputy Speaker, renovations to the Paradise Island straw market are about 80% complete, and we expect to announce its completion by August 31st of 2023, with the official reopening schedule for soon after, and the relaunch of the Paradise Island facility has led to discussions with Atlantis Resorts on the marketing of this venue as a premier cultural attraction to the guests for the resort. Madam Speaker, this effort, along with new upgraded signage and a rigid quality control measures for the products sold at that market, is the formula we anticipate will lead to an uptick in the prominence and desirability of the Paradise Island straw market internationally. Additionally, Madam Speaker, the new Fort Charlotte market is about 75% complete. However, with the full scope of this project, we expect it to be completed at or around December 1st, 2023. As such, this market is expected to reopen with a different flair, inclusive of lively weekly performances by Bahamian entertainers and culinary artists with display of authentic Bahamian cuisine that will also be available at this venue by approved vendors. Hair braidings and storytelling will also be incorporated into this concept to assist in the creation of an indigenous cultural environment. Mr. Deputy Speaker, vendor spaces have been doubled at this facility directly because of our creative expansion concept, and the Straw Market Authority projects projects an income of approximately $43,000 annually from this facility alone. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am pleased to advise that the new Fort Fincastle Market is a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Works and the AAMC. Mr. Deputy Speaker, plans for this new market, the landscape of the market grounds, and the refurbishment of the historic water tower has been presented to and approved by the AAMC. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, we fully expect works to begin in the coming months. Mr. Deputy Speaker, due to the recent establishment of a strategic partnership between the Nassau Cruise Port and other stakeholders, the Straw Market Authority is anticipating significant collaboration on items prioritized by all concerned. Such collaborative subject matters include, but are not limited to, marketing and promotional activity of the world-famous straw market targeted to the cruise passengers that explore the arrival terminal, messaging designed to enhance the image of the straw market, which include identifying their products and advising on the goods and services available therein, directional signage from the cruise port terminal to the straw market, and of course, monthly meetings to discuss ongoing plans to better facilitate the objectives of all the stakeholders. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Straw Market Authority is experimenting with the possibility of new market opportunities for the expansion of the main market in the downtown area. As such, we are in talks with the Ministry of Tourism and other private partners with the view of transforming the Woods Rogers Walk and the Prince George Wharf area by increasing the excitement levels in the market areas for both visitors and locals alike. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we have commenced conversations with various stakeholders in the transportation and tour disciplines to increase foot traffic in and around the straw market area. Finally, as we attempt to increase the viability and reach of this indigenous artistic product line, we plan to engage our colleagues in the Family Islands as we seek to improve product quality here in Nassau on our market spaces and experiences in the Family Island. To this end, Mr. Deputy, we are placing special effort on the facilitation of information sharing and the sharing of intellectual capital between our islands and markets as a means of learning and product improvement. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the way forward for the straw market is to enhance our market spaces from mere shopping places to an encounter with Bahamian culture. This cultural experience must encompass the sharing of information, education, and enjoying of the cuisine, art, and entertainment. It will not surprise you, therefore, Mr. Deputy, that there are conversations ongoing, the result of which will transform the Bahamian experience for visitors, while simultaneously creating a world-class cultural adventure at all of our straw market sites throughout the Bahamas and at our flagship market here in the downtown Nassau. Mr. Deputy Speaker, just imagine what would it be like for our visitors, particularly those leaving the ships, to have a bite-sized taste of live rake and scrape, Jonkunu rush outs, Bahamian art, even story time with Shine or Bucky and Barabi. In all of our market spaces, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the potential for growth is limitless. With the progressive budget we are proposing, the potential for growth is limitless. A budget which should provide the required funding and will allow all of our teams within the various arms of this authority to become fully engaged in executing the ideas and plans until they are no longer things that we dream of, but instead, Mr. Deputy, they become our reality. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now turn my attention to the Water and Sewage Corporation. Over the period July 1, 2022 to the present, the corporation's board and management has been focused on achieving the government's mandate, which is to put the Water and Sewage Corporation back on the path to becoming a world-class water sanitation utility that meets and exceeds the customer's needs, one that is financially viable and operates in full compliance with all environmental and regulatory standards. To achieve this mandate, the corporation has defined several priorities of urgent action plan development and implementation within the corporation. One, a corporate business plan to place the corporation on a pathway to financial independence. Two, a significant capital development plan to improve existing services and to extend services to unserved communities. Three, an improvement in corporate governance, accountability, staff performance, the work culture and the environment. And four, a major legislative and regulatory review and reform. With regards to the corporate plan, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as highlighted during the budget communication by the Honorable Prime Minister, strategic decisions are required with respect to state-owned enterprises, including the Water and Sewage Corporation, to reduce their increasing dependence on government subsidies. The subsidiary requirement of the corporation has increased from approximately $10 million in 2002 to approximately $84 million in 2022. And all indications are that this figure will continue to rise unless early strategic decisions are made. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the corporation's present legislative framework has remained unchanged since its formation in 1976. Its tariff have remained unchanged since the late 1990s. However, since the early 2000s, the corporation has embarked on a major transition in its water supply strategy from the prior dependence on groundwater supplies, which we know to be limited nationally. For today, over 95% of the corporation's New Providence water supply and over 60% of the Family Island water supply is dependent on desalination plants. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in most of our Family Islands, as you know, the price consumers pay for water supply is below the cost of water production even before we consider our transmission, distribution, and other administrative costs. In reviewing the corporation's management accounts for 2022, the corporation's revenues were approximately $50.4 million compared to $48.7 million in 2021. However, the corporation's total operating expenses, including depreciation, was $106 million in 2022 as compared to $88.8 million in 2021. The increase in operating expenses in 2022 are primarily derived by two factors, namely an increase in water purchase costs related to the global increase in energy prices, and two, an increase in staffing costs, which is associated with new hires and the resolution of some outstanding lawsuits and disputes with various unions. This trend is clearly unsustainable and requires urgent strategic correction. To achieve this, the corporation has engaged an international strategic advisory firm to guide its development of the Corporate Business Plan with the support of the Inter-American Development Bank. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the principal area of focus of this plan includes changes in the legal and regulatory framework of the water and sewage sector, a review of all existing water purchase contracts, to create a strategy to address our national water resources and the proliferation of unregulated private wells, to create a new financial model, to prioritize capital investment plans and associated financing plans. Of course, to create a forecast for New Providence and Family Island, a quality of service survey, and an environmental friendly strategy to address renewables by way of renewable energy efficiency and climate resiliency. An update progress report will be made to the Cabinet in late June, sometime next week, and we expect to provide an update to the opposition and the other stakeholders in due course thereafter with regards to the plan. As we transform the corporation over the next 5 years, we will unleash the single largest, most strategic, comprehensive 5-year capital development plan in corporation's history, aimed at substantially providing the quality, reliability, and climate resiliency of our existing services and expanding our services to communities not presently served. Mr. Deputy Speaker, some 80 plus projects, Mr. Deputy Speaker, totaling some 200 million have been identified throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas. And while I cannot and will not speak to 80 projects, I would like to just simply speak about a few that may be of interest to this House. The corporation continues to address critical water production, storage, supply, transmission and distribution, and infrastructure challenges on the island of Eleuthera. Since September 2021, the corporation has commenced works in excess of $6.9 million to improve these systems, including substantial increase in water storage capacity for Central Eleuthera, North Eleuthera, and Harbor Island, an extension of the water mains to Russell Island, planned major repairs to Spanish well storage tanks, and newly standby generation for the Tarpon Bay Distribution Station and the current island desalination plant. In addition to these works in Eleuthera, Mr. Deputy, the corporation is presently in strategic negotiations with desalination contractor Aqua Design to purchase its Waterford, Tarpon Bay, Central Eleuthera, North Eleuthera desalination plants, and further announcements will be made in due course. The government is cognizant and has mandated that the corporation complete strategic improvements to its contractual arrangements to ensure a consistent, reliable water supply network is in place to support the tremendous growth the island of Eleuthera is presently experiencing. To support this growth, the government is also finalizing financing arrangements for a public-private partnership agreement to bring about urgent improvement to the water transmission and distribution across the island of Eleuthera in advance of major road paving works. These plans are in a very advanced stage, and we do expect a formal announcement in due course. In the Exumas, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the corporation has recently awarded a contract $9.1 million with 2 contractors to carry out extensive water transmission and distribution system. These extension and improvements in the mainland of Exuma ahead of major road paving works. These works include the provision of piped water supply to all of Little Exuma and Barry Tarry for the first time, and major improvement works in Georgetown area. I know the member here wants to hear about Andros, but I have to speak about Cat Island.
No problem. No problem at all.
The
No
corporate-
problem at all. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
The corporation is working very closely with the Ministry of Public Works and Utilities and the Ministry of Finance to conclude a public-private partnership agreement for extensive water transmission, distribution, and road paving contracts for all of Cat Island. The scope of work includes almost 95 miles of new water mains to serve approximately 1,000 residents and businesses on the island at a cost of approximately $30 million. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as you know, this will represent the largest single infrastructure project on any single family island in the history of the corporation. To supply this project and the prior projects that was completed without water source, the corporation is in the final stages of awarding the contract for this supply, installation, commissioning, and operation of 2 desalination facilities, one in Bennett's Harbor to serve the northern Cat Island, and one in Newbight to serve the southern Cat Island. At the conclusion of this product, Mr. Deputy Speaker, at the conclusion of this project, we expect that every single home and business in Cat Island will have a world-class, consistent, reliable piped water supply. Similar to Cat Island in Luthra, the government is also finalizing financing arrangements for a public-private partnership arrangement to bring about long outstanding extensions for water transmission and distribution system across Long Island in advance of major road paving works. Long Island. As a part of the Caribbean Development Bank supply improvement phase, the corporation expects to invite tenders shortly for the replacement of the entire water distribution system in Mangrove Key, Andros. This project will bring about substantial relief, substantial relief to the residents of the Mangrove Key who have suffered much too long with frequent low pressure and no water supply challenges due to frequent leaks in the old existing defective mains. Separately, the Water and Sewage Corporation is reviewing its Camps Bay desalination plant to determine what improvements are required to better service the residents of Camps Bay to Mars Bay. Also, new standby generators have been installed to improve the
Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
It appears that the member wishes to continue, Mr. Deputy, and near completion. So, Mr. Deputy, I now move for an extended time beyond the 1 o'clock hour.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the business of the House do extend beyond the 1 p.m. hour. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of the House will continue beyond 1 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Separately, the Water and Sewage Corporation is reviewing its Camps Bay desalination plant to determine what improvements are required to better service the residents from Camps Bay to Mars Bay. Also, new standby generators are being installed to improve the reliability of our supply to the communities of Stafford Creek, Stanyard Creek, Cargill Creek, and Fresh Creek. Thank you. As you would have heard from the member for Michael yesterday, New standby generators have been installed across our system in Maguana, Crooked Island, and Auckland and Long Key. The new Colonel Hill desalination facility in Crooked Island was commissioned last summer and continues to provide a high-quality desalination water supply for the residents of Colonel Hill, Cabbage Hill, and Church Grove. The corporation is actively addressing the need for a desalination facility in North Auckland, and we wish to assure the residents of Lovely Bay and Chesters that their days of challenges with the current groundwater system, which is increasingly brackish, will be addressed shortly. So a new desalination plant is on the way for Auckland's member. The corporation's board, led by the Honorable Sylvanus Petty, the Member for Parliament for North Luther, and the management and staff of the corporation are working assiduously to maintain the public's confidence that good corporate governance and accountability safeguards are in place within the corporation. We believe that any transition of the corporation to a world-class water and sanitation entity must be led by an excited and energized team with a clear understanding of the vision and goals and objectives of the
Stay focused. Stay focused.
with the objectives of the organization. To date, the leadership of the corporation has substantially resolved the many lawsuits, disputes, grievances, etc. with both unions. These efforts have played a fundamental role in improving the staff morale and achieving the harmonious work environment along with both unions. On April 25th of this year, the corporation and the Bahamas Utility Service Allied Workers Union, which represents the non-management staff, signed a new industrial agreement for the period July 1st, 2022 to the 30th, 2025. Presently, the corporation is in active negotiations with the Water and Sewage Management Union, and we expect to sign a new industrial agreement with this union in the coming weeks. Section 15.2 of the Water and Sewage Corporation Act requires the minister to table audited financial statements of the corporation before the House of Parliament. Unfortunately, the last audited statements tabled were in the year 2018. The present administration meant an incomplete audit in 2019, and the 2020 audit yet commenced. The board and management of the corporation are working with the auditors, and it is hoped that the 2019 audited financial statements will be completed and tabled in early September, and in due course, the 2020 and 2021 audited financial statements will be completed by the end of this calendar year. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as I close, and I'll turn my attention to the people the people that sent me here. South Beach is better today than it was yesterday. There's no need to start and pontificate about the work we are doing. We are engaged and the community is feeling it, Mr. Deputy Speaker. South Beach is firing on all cylinders. 20 months ago, South Beach, you decided that you wanted despondent, derelict, disingenuous representation gone. And you elected this member on the promise that I would love you and care for you as much as I do my wife, who I also found in South Beach.
No, you want to take a break?
Right around the corner
Hey,
in South Beach Drive in Mr. Roll Lemiard.
don't take no break. Don't take no break.
On September 19, 2021, South Beach, you made the right choice, just as my wife would have made that right choice. 16, sorry. Just as my wife would have made that right choice
Don't
many
get the
years
date
ago.
wrong. Don't get the date. Don't say the date. Don't say the date. Don't say the wrong date.
See, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there's a special correlation between this member and that constituency. I am pleased to report that since September 21, Mr. Deputy, not only is bad representation gone from South Beach, but now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the flooding from in front of C.V. Bethel School is also gone. The road is fixed, finally fixed. Problem solved. Summers in South Beach with absolutely no activities planned for available or for the young people of the constituency, that is gone too. The constituency office, we are at the constituency office planning a summer program to be held at C.V. Bethel School, a sports camp, an academics camp, and a band camp, June 26th to July 7th. Math and English from 9 to 12 a.m., from 9 to 12. Basketball, soccer, and baseball from 1 to 3. Simultaneously, we will be hosting a band camp with the Southeastern Community Band on campus. 2 weeks of intense music training for children of all ages. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in more recent times, the roads of South Beach have gotten a bit better. There is a road that borders the northern side of our constituency and the southern side of Bamboo Town, Zion Boulevard, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I'm proud to announce that paving began on Zion Boulevard yesterday. Zion Boulevard is the main thoroughfare which Bahamian residents use to transmit from east to west, and it was in dire strait of urgent paving. So thanks to the member for Charlotte, the Minister of Works, who is listening to me, listening to our cries.
The great minister.
Speed humps were requested in Pinecrest. Speed humps were delivered. Speed humps were requested on South Beach Drive. Speed humps were delivered. In the original South Beach Estates, all corners adjacent to Oxford Drive and Charles Drive, Faith Gardens, you've asked for speed humps. Give me 3 weeks and your humps would be in place. Speed humps. Humps.
The longer ones, you know. It's the longer, they don't break up the car.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, we recently launched out of the constituency office a program called the I Dare You Project. The I Dare You Project seeks to recognize those students who are on their own or in their own small way making small but steady improvements in their academics, their behavior, their attendance, their leadership, and their overall deportment. The project has been initiated in Anatole Rogers, Bahamas Academy, C.V. Bethel, and Jordan Princeville schools, all of which are in my constituency. The goal is to create a dynamic group of students that blossom or that will blossom into fledgling young adults, returning to the project to give back to the younger ones who would come into the project at a later date. The intent is designed to keep this cohort of students together by providing mentorship, leadership, guidance, and navigate them through this journey of high school, hopefully university, and indeed life. I'd like to say at the onset, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that in this program, this I Dare You project, we did not go after the A students. We did not go after the B students. We went after those students who wanted to just progress and make progression daily progressive. The plan or the ideal here, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is not to be perfect, but to simply want to progress. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would say to South Beach, through you, thank you for allowing me this opportunity, and I will always be grateful to the people of South Beach for permitting me the opportunity to publicly support this budget for a progressive and more secure Bahamas. And with that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, South Beach rests.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the honorable member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
Mr. Deputy, we now move for the suspension of the House for the lunch break to return at 3:30 this afternoon, Mr. Deputy. 3:30. 3:30, Mr. Deputy.
Is there a seconder? Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded that the business of the House be suspended until 3:30 p.m. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of the House stands suspended until 3:30 p.m.
Order!